Hi, my name is N.H. Shankar Reddy, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Plant Pathology, Best IU. So today we are going to see introduction to plant pathology. So just like a general introduction. Now we'll see what is plant pathology, where actually the plant pathology has its roots, and why we need to study plant pathology. So now we'll see all those general introduction about plant pathology. So the first one is plant pathology. So plant pathology is otherwise called as phytopathology. Phyto means plant. Pathology means study of suffering of plant diseases. We can also call it as a study of plant diseases. So the next one is, if I ask you why do we need to study plant pathology, general answers will be like to know about plant pathogens, or to know about damages or diseases caused by the plant pathogens, or maybe host pathogen interaction. All those things you guys will tell, right? So let me tell you in a little different way. If I tell plant diseases also can kill humans, or plant pathogen also can kill humans, did you guys believe? Not directly but indirectly, that I will tell you. Let me tell you one small example before this. Recently we have seen corona pandemic, right? So almost 196 countries, all the scientists across the nations are involved in coronavirus, because the direct reason is it is directly killing the people, right? So if I tell plant diseases also can kill humans, did you guys believe? Because let me tell you one small example. If the plant diseases affects, what will happen? The availability of food will goes down. If the availability of food will goes down, the price will be automatically increases. So only the people who have money or who can afford the food that they can buy. If they can't, what they will do? They will starve and die one day, right? So that I will tell you so many epidemics and plant diseases which causes severe epidemics, that I will tell you. So now we'll see where plant pathology actually started, or where plant pathology actually has its roots. So dated back to 1845, there will be a disease called late blight of potato, which is caused by Phytophthora infestant. It is actually a fungal disease. So if you see the symptoms, so brown color discoloration of potato, and as well as the decaying of potato also can be observed. So if you see the field symptoms, we can clearly see initially what will happen. Water soaked lesions appears on the leaves, and later what will happen? The entire plant will look like a wilting of plants. So we can see clearly observed in the same picture in field conditions. Almost 80 to 90% of the crop is destroyed here. So if you see this, so this is again in the time of 1845. If you see these two pictures clearly, this picture was actually taken in 1845. So there will be a small story behind this that I will tell you. So however, we have a rice is a staple food crop. They have potato as their staple food crop in 1840s. So I will tell you what might be the reason that the potato become their staple food crop. In the starting of 1800, Irish government passed a rule that whatever the farmers are cultivating, if it is above the ground level, that they need to pay 100% tax. If it is not above the ground level, no need to pay any tax. The farmers came up with an idea so that we can go with the potato. So because the potato actually grow in the root soil level, right? So they started growing of potato. Within a very short period of time, the entire Ireland is covered with only cultivation of potato, and very short period of span, the potato become their staple food crop. And one more reason is there, because the potato contains rich amount of complex carbohydrates, so that they can it will be it will be sufficient for their all the energy needs, and moreover it contains a little amount of protein also. So later that what will happen, due to continuous cultivation of same kind of crop, that is a potato, in the middle of the 1845, in the summer of the 1845, what will happen? And the temperature starts to reduces, the normal temperature in Ireland is 10, or maybe in between 10 to 15. So in the particularly in the period of 1845, what will happen? The temperature goes down very less, 1 to 2 degrees centigrade. Because of this devastating effect, what will happen? The production of potato will goes 90% down. Because as I said you, that potato is their staple food crop, right? So 90% of the potato goes down. The people who have money, that they can offer potato, because people who don't have money, like people like normal people, they can't able to buy food, right? So what will happen? Because of that, 1.5 million people are died, which means 15 lakhs people are died because of only food starvation, because the unavailability of food material. If you imagine, even though you got a very good crop, if you cut open the potato, if it is decayed, can we? It's not possible, right? So but at that time they don't have sophisticated technologies, especially money. So they're mainly cultivating food and eating and doing their work, that's it. So if there is no food, this is the original situation, what will happen because of starvation and all those things. So 1.5 million people are died, almost 2 to 3 million people are migrated to United States of America, North America or Central America. That I will tell you one more thing, how dangerous or how devastating this disease is. 35th president of America, that is John F. Kennedy, he also actually migrated from Ireland, because he is actually a peasant of, in Ireland. Because of lead blight of potato, because of unavailability of food, 3 million people are migrated, I told you, right? He is one of the migrant from Ireland. So if you see the DNA analysis or genome analysis, 70 to 80% of the United States people, Mexico, North America, Central America, they have their genome structures dated back to 1845. So now you guys will understand how dangerous the plant diseases are. Now you can ask me that, this is actually happens in Ireland, right? Is there any such kind of devastating disease that happens in India? Of course, yes, that I will tell you in later slides. So this is when we dated back to 1845, this disease will occur. This is actually happened. Nowadays, entire, if you see United Kingdom, now it is already almost all united. In 1845, there is no such kind of union, like Ireland is separate, Wales is separate, there are different kinds of states and, like different kinds of countries are there, right? So there are different countries and maintaining their own territories. So in 1845, because of this devastating effect, what will happen, there will be a military conflict between England and as well as Ireland also will happen. That is actually not related to us. When it comes to here, as I told you, that the temperature goes down to 1.5 to 7 Fahrenheit, so that the new disease will occur, and so much migrations and killing of people will happen. And actually Irish government formed a order of people like scientists who are working there. Nowadays we have a scientist like if agronomist or plant pathologist or genetist. In that time, there is no separate branches for dealing all those subjects. They actually, all kinds of diseases are plant related things that can be dealt by botanists, right? Actually, this was handed over to one of the very famous botanists. He's John Lindley. He's a very famous scientist at the time, and he has a commission that he was instructed to find out the reason behind the lead blight of potato. What actually happened to potato? Why this happens? And what is the reason behind this, all those things. And he actually worked out, for 1 or 2 years in the 1845, August 23 in 1845, not 1 or 2 years, maybe a short period of 6 months. And in 1845, John Lindley published the same articles in Garden's Chronicle. It is actually like an agricultural magazine at that time. So he published Garden's Chronicle. So he came to a conclusion that it is actually not a disease, because at that time, people used to bury the potatoes in a ground level. As I told you that if it is above the ground level, you need to pay 100% tax, right? So they have an idea of burying the potatoes and lower the ground level. So he thought that potatoes has its roots, right? And the potatoes also have a capacity to absorb the water. So he thought that potatoes absorbed a little amount of extra water so that it can't able to eject it out. Because of that reason only, the potatoes have rotted. In earlier we have seen the symptoms like brown color discolorations and as well as decaying of potato. He thought that it is not a disease, but due to over absorption of water, the plant or the potato was decayed. He came to a final conclusion in 1845. In the meantime, in the same time, there were one more botanist called Berkeley, because in his entire lifetime he worked on especially identification of fungal disease and all those things. 6,000 species of fungi he identified, and he is also considered as founder of British mycology because he is from Britain, right? So that I will tell you, Berkeley told that before that John Lindley told, it was clearly mentioned, like it was actually sucked up the water through roots, so it can't able to eject the excess amount of water. That is the only reason where the potatoes are decayed. Then he came to with a very very clear proof that even that is a standard with today's generation. He told that it is not because of sucking of water, there might be some fungi involved, because if you see the pictures here, these were the pictures. So he actually collected that brown color discolored potato, that is diseased potato, and he was observed under the microscope. So after observations of many kinds of, continuous observation or repeated observation, he have seen some kind of sporangiospore. Now we know it is a sporangiospore. At that time they thought it is some kind of spores. We can clearly observe some kind of spores. So he started to observe repeatedly, and he found the same kind of results. Why he got doubt? Because the same kind of spores, which is not completely related but differently related, he was observed earlier on the onion. So he observed the same kind of food which is unrelated spores in the onion. So now he observed the same kind of spores, and he came to conclusion that it might be caused by fungus, but he don't have a final proof and a final conclusion. And there was a rivalry between if you see John Lindley and as well as Berkeley, because Berkeley is like a layman, he is not a botanist or something like that, but his heart is to collect fungi. Okay, but John Lindley is a certified botanist, so every people start to believe that Lindley only. So because as I told you, he is a botanist and he is a very famous professor, so everybody start to support John Lindley only. But Berkeley didn't give up, and he sent some samples. So whatever the potato samples that what he had collected, he sent to one of the other man, he is called Montag. So whatever the samples that he had sent to Montag, the spores that was earlierly observed by Berkeley, the same kind of spores also he observed, and he sent it back to Berkeley. So he matched with the same kind of spores, and he came to a final conclusion that it is 100% caused by fungi only, it is not because of water. Then as I told you that John Lindley is a rivalry man, right? And he came to another theory that because of excess water, some kind of molds will go. That might be the reason where you have observed the such kind of sporangiosspores or spores. So this is not a disease, because if the excess water will be there, if you see bread, if you are sprinkling water, we can see the spores on the next day, right? So he thought that excess amount of water, some kind of spores was developed on the potato. It is not at all a fungal disease. Again, he sent it back to a letter to Montag, and as well as M.J. Berkeley strongly believed that it is caused by fungi only. And one further step that Montag took, and he also named the pathogen. Late blight of potato is caused by Botrytis infestans. One step he took further and also named the pathogen. It is Botrytis infestans, because they don't know how to prove it. Because they don't have how to do experiments and all those things in 1850s and 1860s, right? Then the real hero came. This is Anton DeBary, and he concluded that late blight of potato is caused by fungi only. It is not because of sucking water, or not because of moldy growth or something else. It is clearly he was clearly seen that it was caused by fungi only. And before that, Montag named it as a Botrytis infestans, right? And he changed the name to Phytophthora infestans. Phyto means plant, Thora means destroyer. Why he named Phytophthora? Because it is destroying the entire plant. That's why he named it as a Phytophthora. And he came up with a very simple experiment. And the experiment that he was done is, he took 2 pots and planted potatoes. So one is covered with glass house, one is cover, what can I say, that net. So he was inoculated the sporangiospores that I told you, we have seen some kind of spores, right? He had collected the inoculum of that spores and sprayed on the one potato leaf. And another one is not sprayed with the sporangiospores or the spores. And within a very short span of time, whatever the symptoms, that is the late blight of symptoms that are observed on the field, the same kind of symptoms that is observed on the inoculated plant. The next one is, it is free of inoculum, right? So it won't produce any symptoms. So he came up with a conclusion that it is caused by Phytophthora infestans. So before that, there is no such kind of experiments. He started with doing some kind of experiments for proving of diseases, right? That's why he is largely called as father of plant pathology. Not only father of plant pathology, he is also called as father and founder of experimental plant pathology, because he started doing experiments to prove a disease, right? That's why he is called as father and founder of experimental plant pathology. And he also identified the life cycle of the late blight of potato. We can clearly see the late blight of potato, and he's a very famous man. He's not only identified the late blight of potato, and if you see many important terms, Haustoria, chlamydospores, and autoecious and heteroecious nature of rust, and then many more terms he coined. He developed more than 10-15 students, and very famous students like Miladat, M.S. Voronin, H.M. Ward. They later become the greatest contributors or leaders of the plant pathology. All are the students of Anton DeBary only. So This is about lead blight of potato, where actually lead blight is started. Because of only lead blight of potato, the scientists, not only scientists and people, came to realize that how important the plant diseases are. Or then they came up with an idea of why don't we start a new branch for studying of plant diseases, especially plant diseases. And in the starting of 1800 and 1900, and some other scientists, very famous scientists, they started a separate branch that is called plant pathology. So especially studying about plant diseases and how plant pathogens will interact and what exactly will happen when the plant will, infected by plant pathogens, all those things. The name Phytophthora infestans was given in 1876 only, but it actually came to a final proof that lead blight of potato is caused by fungi in 1861. But he gave that the disease, that is the lead blight of potato, is caused by Phytophthora infestans, that was given in the year of 1876 only. So if you see, as I told you that he's not only the greatest contributors but also a very great teacher. If you see the very famous scientists, H.M. Ward, W.G. Farlow, so many scientists we can see. So these are all are the students of Anton de Barry. They later become the greatest contributors of plant pathology, where they laid very strong foundation to plant pathology. So if you see, these are all the afterwards effects of lead blight of potato. Actually in 1845 it happens, right? So see, the people were actually migrating with along with their children. You take a look how lean they are. Take a look how lean they are because of food starvation. The only lead blight of potato can shake the entire Ireland. Actually the disease happened in 1845. The effect will be there until 1860. Until 1860 the effect was there. We can see the migration, the people who are migrating from Ireland to various parts of the nations. We can see how lean they are, and they are going along with their childs. We can clearly see, and it is also called as the greatest migration in not only history of plant pathology but also the entire history of mankind. That is called, we can see clearly, we can see. So now you guys have an idea how important the plant diseases are. That I will tell you one more small example. Hope we guys know very well that First World War and the Second World War, right? So First World War will happen in 1914 to 1918. I will tell you very small incident that happens in 1917. So actually in 1845 the disease appears, right? So later on some measures were there, like spraying of copper fungicides or broadcasting of copper fungicides can manage the disease somehow. What will happen in 1917, we know very well Germany was in war with many countries, like if you take United States of America or United Kingdom, like Russia, all those countries, it was doing war. So they need continuous supply of food and as well as ammunition. That is, you may take bullets or you may take some kind of explosives, everything they need, right? In 1917, what will happen? The same lead blight of potato will occur or happens in Germany. So 7 lakhs people are died because of food starvation again. Then you can tell me, sir, you told that copper fungicides can be recommended for the management of plant diseases, right? So what exactly happened? They have a copper fungicide, but their copper can be used for preparation of bullets. Not only for preparation of bullets but also for the production of wires, because they need to communicate between the people, right? So the entire copper can spend on preparation of bullets and as well as other kinds of things, so that they can't able to protect their food crop. 7 lakhs people are died because they are unable to protect their crop, because all the copper they're using for the preparation of bullets. So this is, if the food supply won't be there, what will happen? The troops will automatically get dry, right? So they need continuous supply of food also. So imagine, lead blight of potato is also one of the reason for the Germany's, losing their credibility in the First World War. If the food will be there, sufficient food will be there, if there is no lead blight of potato, trust me, the entire world scenario will be completely different nowadays. So this is about general introduction, how actually the plant pathology has roots. Now we will see some other devastating diseases. So let's come to the Indian scenario. So however the lead blight of potato was become devastating in that time, in India also we have one devastating disease, that is called Bengal famine. So we know very well we got independence in 1947. Before that we are under the control of British government, right? So the disease, the Bengal famine, is actually caused by brown leaf spot. It is otherwise called as brown leaf spot, which is caused by Bipolaris varese. In India, the disease was actually reported in 1919. That was reported by Sundar Raman from Madras. Is actually a botanist on the time. It is actually first reported from Madras, but it became a severe epidemic and devastating epidemic in actually Bengal province. So in that time we don't have Kolkata or something like that. All the, if you see Bangladesh and Kolkata, all are under collectively called as Bengal. So we know very well that at that time the rice is the like a staple food crop from since centuries, not centuries I would say, from 1940s and 1950s onwards. The rice becomes slowly getting its momentum and people start to use the rice. So in 1942 what will happen? A disease occurs, that is a brown leaf spot of rice. See, it happens in a Bengal province, that's why it is called as Bengal famine, otherwise called as Great Bengal famine. So before we have seen lead blight of potato, only 1.5 million people are died. Because of Bengal famine, 3 million people are dead. That is 30 lakhs people are died because of food starvation. We can clearly see how lean they are because of food starvation. There is no food. They may get food once in a week. Maybe sometimes, I don't know, maybe once in a 10 days or something like that. We can see how lean they are. You can see how lean they are. People are died. Nobody, like vultures are eating on the roads itself, and many fields are covered with only dead bodies. Only dead bodies. We can see how devastating is in 1842 time. If you see, the mother can't able to protect their children because of there is no food, right? We can also see vultures are eating the dead bodies on the grounds, or the fields. How devastating it is. See, take a look. This is the devastating effect of plant disease. That's why we need to study plant diseases, to have an idea about the plant diseases, to have an idea how the disease will spread, for the efficient management of plant diseases, so that we can't able to we can protect people from such kind of epidemics or devastating epidemics. So as I told you that Bengal famine, about all the history, almost 3 million people are died. So when it comes to the impact, losses of lives, economic disruption in the time of British government, and as well as the political unrest or long-term health effects. Because imagine, if you can't able to eat, or if you can't able to get food for 2 days or 3 days, and we are suddenly eating, what will happen? Hope you guys know that the body won't support for a long time. So that's why they may lead to long-term health effects. So this is about Bengal famine. Not only Bengal famine, we can clearly see this is brown color spots can be seen, that is Bengal famine. Brown color lesions or spots can be seen, not only on leaves, but we can also observe on glooms, and sometimes we can also observe on the stem. This is the picture that is brown leaf spots that we can see on the field conditions. So these are all the very important diseases that indirectly or directly involved in the loss of millions of lives. So the remaining diseases are not there is no death will be involved, but losses of losses of properties, or what can I say, losses of lots of money, and the economy will goes down because of the many diseases. So the another most important disease is grapes downy mildew, which is caused by Plasma paraviticola. It is actually reported in in 1878, France, dated back to 1878 in France. We know very well France is highly famous for wine production. So 90% of the grapes, whatever they are producing, they will use it for only for wine consumption. It's there like a tradition. However, we have a plenty of traditions in India. They have their tradition growing wines, or that is growing grapes and doing preparation of wine and drinking every single day. That is their tradition. So actually grapes powdery mildew is caused by Ansinilla necator. Now it is called as Erisife necator. So in 1854, actually the grape fields are first discovered with grapes powdery mildew. So to prevent this grapes powdery mildew, they started doing grafting. So they have somehow they managed in 1860s and 1865s. Again, one more problem came, that is the Phylloxera root aphid, which is caused by Phylloxera vastrastrix. The scientific name of the Phylloxera root aphid, Phylloxera vastrastrix. And they came to realize that American rootstocks are highly resistant to this Phylloxera root aphid. Somehow the French people are not convenient with importing of rootstocks from United States of America. Somehow some of the scientists who are there convinced the farmers, and rootstocks came from America in 1860s and 1870s. And then within a very short span of time, what will happen? The entire France was covered with American rootstocks. Unfortunately, a new fungi was carried from America to France, that is the grapes downy mildew. It leads to almost 90 to 95% of the devastation. I will tell you. So 95% of the wine production goes down in 1878 because of the disease, that is Plasma paraviticola. Somehow later scientists were involved in creating the measures for this. If you see the symptoms, we can see a white color mycelial growth. that white color mycelial growth is called as downy growth. So white color downy growth can be observed on the lower surface of leaves, not upper surface. Make sure white color downy growth can be seen on the lower surface of leaf. So if you see this, we can also see that mycelial growth on the fruits, but the major symptoms is we can see mummification of fruits. Here the fruits are mummified. The mummification of fruits or shrinking of fruits can be seen. So let me come once again. White color mycelial growth, that is called as downy growth, can be seen on the lower surface of leaf. When we see the berries, mummification of berries can be seen. We can also call it as a shrinking of berries. That is the most important symptoms. So later a scientist called Milladet, he discovered some remedy. This is called Bodo mixture. So this is called Bodo mixture. So this discovery is considered as serendipity discovery or accidental discovery. So there will be a small story behind this that I will tell you. So actually he was, the disease occurred, and almost all grape production goes down, and he has an idea of developing some kind of remedies so that again he can resume the grape production. So he was walking on a road. Imagine these are all the grape fields, because if you see the France, most of the France is covered with grapes only. So if you see, he was walking on the road, and he was observed something. Imagine the grapes. Imagine grapes. Imagine all grapes, and he observed something. This is the only area in the both sides where the plants are completely free of disease, and some kind of white color liquid also he observed on the plants. And he was really shocked, because if you see, the remaining field is infected with grapes downy mildew. The area where some white color liquid material will be there, it is completely free of disease. Then he was very enthusiastic or eager to know what exactly happening here. Immediately he went to that farm manager. He's called David. He went to David and he asked David, what exactly happened to this area? Why this area is completely free of disease? And he said, I have no idea, and we just sprayed some kind of copper and as well as lime. Because why you sprayed? Then again he asked, and he said that because every single day students used to walk on the road, and if we spray some kind of white color material, so that they will get afraid, so that they don't eat the grapes, because the students have a mentality, whenever they are going, they will do some kind of naughty things, right? So to prevent or to protect from students, they sprayed copper fungicide, that is copper and as well as a lime combination. Because of copper and the lime combination only, the disease was controlled on the area where they sprayed. So they have a little idea. This is actually happened in 1882, and along the Milladet again start working on it with to develop with a complete measure, and he developed Bodo mixture, that is 1:1:100, 1 kilogram of copper sulfate, 1 kilogram of lime or hydrated lime, and 100 liters of water mixed together and can be sprayed on the crop. The only disadvantage of this Bodo mixture is we can use it within 1 day. If it goes beyond that, there will be no effect, or maybe sometimes toxic effect will be there, that too very minor. So this is called as holy water. We can also call it as holy water, or fungicide of the century also, because it actually developed in the year 1885. Actually he developed in 1882 itself, but he worked on again 2 to 3 years to come up with an exact management of the exact measures. I can say that exact composition, right? So in 1885 he came up with a composition, that is 1:1:100. That is the best, or that is especially recommended for the management of grapes downy mildew. Not only grapes downy mildew, we can use this Bodo mixture for almost all kind of crops. So it's been almost 140 years since the discovery. Still we are using this Bodo mixture for the management of plant diseases. So when it comes to the next disease, that is the wheat stem rust, which is caused by Puccinia graminis triticii. So this disease is otherwise called as wheat plague or plague disease. So it is a very devastating disease. We can see brown color, red color, or brown color rust pustules can be seen on the stem region. We can clearly see the raised pustules, red color or brown color rust pustules. We can clearly observe on the stem regions. So if you see in years before, almost 700 BC, let me go to 700 BC. So this cereal rust, especially wheat and barley rust, was dated back to many years. Since 500 BC or 300 BC onwards, we can observe this disease. But people used to believe that this disease was actually caused by people who are doing the wrong things. So on that time there is no scientific discoveries and all those things will be there, right? So people used to discover those who are doing the wrong things, or those who are doing the some kind of against things to the rules of God, they only will get this disease. So actually, in order to prevent, or in order to protect their wheat crops, the Romans actually initiated a festival called Robigolia, and they also have they created the separate god called Robigus. He is the rust god, especially for rust only. He is a rust god called Robigus. So, and they used to celebrate a festival called Robigolia. In nowadays, we used to celebrate April 25th of every year. April 25th of every year we used to celebrate a festival called Robigolia. So on the day they used to sacrifice red dogs, foxes, in order to calm down their god, rust god Robigus, so that they won't get, they have such kind of belief in that time. But later stages we came to realize that it was a fungal disease which is caused by Puccinia graminis triticale. It is a very, 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 very serious threat to wheat production. I will tell you how serious it is. You know very well Norman E. Borlaug. He is considered as father of Green Revolution. So he initiated a separate research organization for working on only wheat. That is we know that is CIMMET, Centro International de Metro Mesorum Anti dy Maize Trigo, that is located at Mexico, especially working on maize and as well as wheat crops. So almost 350 races of Puccinia graminis triticale was reported so far. Imagine how dangerous or devastating this disease is. Once the disease will occur, the grain yield will be around 60 to 70%. In severe cases, 100% yield loss will occur. Why it is called Puccinia graminis triticale? If you see only why triticale, why not Varroa sativa or something like that? I will tell you. If it is a triticale means wheat scientific name is Triticum aestivum, right? So triticale means it is a pharma species, or I can say a specific, plant specific, or host specific. If the species will ends with triticale, it only infect wheat crop. It only infect wheat crop. If it was hardy, Hardium vulgare is the scientific name for barley, right? So that only infect barley. They are highly host specific. Puccinia can infect any kind of plants, but if you see this triticale, hardy, cicalus, something like that, if it's ended with pharma species, actually if pharma species or races or varietal races will be there, they are highly host specific. So here Puccinia graminis triticale causes wheat stem rust. It is one of the most important disease now, and as well as it is also creates lots of problems in the production of wheat, not only for now, and we also, scientists are also believing future it's going to be very devastating, because whatever the resistant variety that the breeders are coming with, within a very short span of time the pathogen can overcome. So that's why the scientists are doing some kind of gene pyramidings, or different kinds of techniques to come up with a very strong resistance lines. So the next one is the coffee rust, which is caused by Hemilia vastostrix. This is also a fungal disease. Actually, in 1890s and 1880s, so entire Sri Lanka was covered by production of coffee only. So almost global, all the globe, they are using coffee, right? So all the coffee was actually exported from Sri Lanka only. So because of the disease, almost 90 to 95% of the coffee production was completely wiped out. That was Hemilia vastostrix. If you see the symptoms, brown color or orange color rust pustules can be seen on the lower surface. Later what will happen, we can see, blister like appearance, or completely raised pustules can be seen on the lower leaves. So this leads to almost 90 to 100% of the yield losses. In severe cases, we know very well, coffee grains are the important, right? If it is a tea, it is a leaves. So it is a coffee, it is a grains, right? If there is no leaves, how photosynthesis will happen? If there is no photosynthesis, malformed grains or improper grain formation will happen. That is also one reason, okay? So he is a HM ward. He is a HM ward, as I told you, coffee rust, right? He is a HM ward. He is a student of Anton de Berry, that I told you about Anton de Berry, right? He is a father of plant pathology, otherwise called as founder and father of experimental plant pathology. It is actually the Anton de Berry who asked HM Ward, you go to Sri Lanka. Actually, British government wrote a letter to Anton de Berry. and in that letter, Anton de Berry, there was a very severe problem in Sri Lanka, you please come and help us. And Anton de Berry told that I was very busy with my activities, so that I will send one of my student, and he sent to H.M. Ward. He's a H.M. Ward, he's a student of Anton de Berry, and he went to Sri Lanka. He identified the different kinds of environmental conditions, and monocropping is the reason. He's not only identified the disease is caused by Hemilia vastastrix, and he also identified the life cycle of coffee rust, Hemilia vastastrix, and he came to final conclusion that the main reason is monocropping. Don't go with monocropping, because if the monocropping will be there, the pathogen will spread very speed, and the destruction also very huge. The next disease is southern corn leaf blight, which is caused by Bipolaris maedis. Before it is called as Helminthosporium maedis, now it is called as Bipolaris maedis. So actually this disease became very severe in 1970. So 1970 this disease became very severe because of CGMS. That is the cytoplasmic genetic male sterility, something will be there in genetics, because these lines are prepared by using only one kind of genes. Because of that only one kind of genes, the disease will occur. So we can see brownish lesions can be seen, or brownish streaks can be seen on the leaves. It leads to 80 to 90% of the yield losses. In some cases it leads to 100% devastating effect. That I will tell you how important this disease is to United States of America. Recently in 2014, there is a movie called Interstellar. The movie, the complete plot is changing the Earth are going to find some other planet for survival. The only reason for the changing of planet is southern corn leaf blight. This is the disease. Not only southern corn leaf blight, that I am telling the reason how important and how devastating the plant diseases are. So this is the field view of maize that is infected with southern corn leaf blight. We can clearly see here. So this is about general introduction to plant pathology, how actually the plant pathology started. Hope it will be useful for you, and thank you very much. And my next class will be on general characters of fungi. Thank you, and we are team best to you.